Tonight, the Reggae Warriors get steamrolled by the British. The NFL pays a lovely tribute to Rob Burrow. And the Titans outline a more ambitious plan and by 2030 than most world governments on climate. Yes, hello and welcome to the Sideline Chat podcast, the one-stop shop for rugby league. Along with Mark Henry, I am Connor Marcells, and today we bring you your international or week one unlook for the end of the year celebrations. And really, it's only this and two other test matches that are going ahead in this time. It's like, come on, Australia, pick up the ball here.
Yeah, pretty much. And it should be just about World Cup time if that didn't get postponed to next year.
Yeah, those shady dealings. The NRL trying to pull the big Jedi mind trick over the audience while the rest of the world's just like, what the bloody hell are you on?
Exactly.
But we digress. It is what it is. World Cup postponed, but we'll talk more about that later. But right now, there was a test match that went on the weekend at the Mendehoes Jungle in Castleford. The England Knights facing Jamaica's Reggae Warriors. And it wasn't pretty one bit. It was just the England Knights coming home with a giant wet sail, 56-4 over the Jamaicans.
Yeah, I knew it was going to be a big score, but I did tip Jamaica to win just for the, not for the fun of it, but just for something different. And how wrong was
I thought it'd be a close match because I didn't really measure the impact these youthful England Knights would have, but my God, you should have just thrown the towel in half an hour in.
Yeah, basically.
Half an hour in. You should have just thrown the towel right then and there if you knew this was what you were going to get.
Yeah. Well, I did say Will Price had a blind every game.
Oh, didn't he?
Did.
He absolutely did.
Yeah.
The try he set up for Ellis Longstaff, just deft grubber, if there was ever a deft grubber to have.
Yes.
And didn't he end up bagging a double as well, or put his name down first, well, for a try at least, on his debut for the England Knights. So this kid has just shone onto the scene. One of the redeeming features of the Huddersfield Giants' abysmal 2021 season. Gets rewarded with an England Knights debut and grabs it with both hands.
Yeah. He, like you said, scored a try and set up one. So he was here, there, everywhere.
Honestly, you got to feel for Jamaica because it was tight. I mean, first 12 to 15 minutes, they were in it. But just things went against them. The heads went down. And I think we all know when the head goes down, bad shit happens.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, Jack Broadbent playing out in the centres where he might still end up next year for Leeds if Conrad Hurrell chooses to stay or go. They really haven't decided on Conrad Hurrell. But Jack Broadbent playing at centre picks off the first intercept and is gone.
Yeah,
gone.
No one caught him whatsoever.
And then from there, the defense just fell apart. What you had, not just him, but then you had Matty Ashton notching up a double. Aaron Smith, one try from dummy half. Just
two tries from dummy half.
Oh, yeah. So the defense just crumbled up faster than you can say pulled pork at a luau.
Yeah, like England just tore up Jamaica right through the middle is where I believe is where the Knights made the most ground, especially like when you had Matty Ashton lingering around there and Will Price as well. So, shredded, absolutely shredded.
Yeah, shredded. I would think shredded on the edges, considering you had Broadbent going through and you had Connor Wrench bagging, I think, the last try of the night. Just left, right, and down the middle. Jamaica just didn't have anything to offer up.
No. They certainly didn't, which is disappointing to see, but let's hope they can turn things around ahead of the World Cup.
The only redeeming thing they did, well, the only bit of redemption they did manage to get when Ben Jones-Bishop was able to crash his way over.
Yes.
That was probably the only time Jamaica actually looked threatening, and that was when the scoreline was at 22-4 in the first half.
That wasn't good, but it's a learning curve for Jamaica, and
Yeah,
they'll
it
learn
will
from
be.
this.
It will be. I think many people would have low expectations just to be on the safe side because you don't want to have high expectations and then just get your ass handed to you. That's just not good.
Yeah.
Wouldn't do it that way.
No, but it's baby steps, as they say.
But I mean, for Will Price, I mean, one try, a couple of try assists in there, and he was pretty sharp with the goal kicking boot as well.
Yeah, he was unbelievable. He's got a very big future, this kid.
Well, it'll be interesting to see where Ian Watson fits in because what has he got? Tui Lola here, and he's got Theo Farge now. So now they're going to be his first choice halves pairing. Where would you put Will Price in, knowing that the old man and played more than standoff? I think, didn't they say wing or center for Leon?
Possibly. I reckon it could be like a bit of a Benji Marshall situation, be a bit of a
I wouldn't call it a Benji Marshall situation. I mean, super sub, yeah, but not when you just start. I mean, it seems standoff is his best position. I mean, we don't even know if Lower here is even guaranteed to start with Theo Farge next year. I mean, Farge is an obvious lock-in for Ian Watson, but he could still. But what does that leave? Not just Price, but Ollie Russell as well. I think we'll just have to wait and see what happens. But I would think Will Price has a place in Ian Watson's starting lineup. If not at standoff or scrum half, then I would think somewhere in the back five where they're really lacking.
Yeah, if he's not in the starting side come round one, I'm going to be very, very shocked.
Well, we will keep it on the Jamaica theme right here because they are back in action again at the Millennium Stadium in Featherstone, but this time going from the second tier England side to a fully fledged Scotland side. The Scotland side aim to take on our favourite reggae men. And Danny Addy and Sam Luckley are picked up from Salford, Ryan Briley, James Bell, Ben Hellowell, and Liam Hood, all from League. Kieran Buchanan from the Batley Bulldogs, the Dewsbury duo of David Dixon and Will Oakes, Charlie M. Slee from Barrow, Dale Ferguson and Alex Walker of the Featherstone Rovers, Guy Graham, Oscar Thomas, and the rising star himself, Lachlan Walmsley, all of Whitehaven. And I think there are a lot of raps on Lachlan Walmsley there. Ben Kavanagh from the Halifax Panthers, Joe McLean from Hunslet, Kieran Moran of Keighley, Rob Oakley representing the London Broncos, and Jack Teenby from York. That is your Scotland side, despite not being able to call upon Lachlan Coote.
Yes. For the Jamaica side, I do apologise for the pronunciations now. Greg Johnson from Batley, David Foggen Johnston from Bradford, John Magrin and Keenan Tomlinson from Dewsbury, Danny Bravo, Ross Peltier from Doncaster, James Woodburn Hall from Halifax, from Poster, you got Ashton Gordon and Michael Lawrence, fourth, Aaron Jones Bishop, Alex Brown, Jordan Andrade, Jamel Coleman all from Hunslet, Mo Agoro from Keighley, Jacob Ogden from the London Broncos, Isaac Farrell and Joe Farrell from Sheffield, Joe Brown from Workington, and Ben Jones Bishop from York.
So this will be Jamaica's second test in 2 weeks. What lessons do you think they should take from the England Knights going into this game?
To tie up the defence big time. And
well, I suppose that's a start.
Yeah. Look,
I will say, I was right in saying that they needed to get Jordan Turner as much hands on the ball as possible. And to be fair, they did play him off at standoff, but not having Turner in this squad this time round, I think there's a lot of pressure on whoever takes his place then.
Yeah. So, but the name that stands out for me that will probably maybe lead the side is Ben Jones Bishop, because you know what he is capable of. And you also got Huddersfield experienced players. Well, not quite, but like in the Huddersfield system of Golding and Lawrence. So Look, it's experience across the park, but I'm not quite sure how they're going to go there without the guys.
Well, the reality is there's going to be a rookie halves pairing going into this clash because we don't know how exactly they're going to line up 1 to 17 until they actually run out exactly, and in match reports we read later on.
Yeah.
But not having the luxury turn because they got a lot of good wingers. I mean, Greg Johnson at Batley, David Fogg and Johnston, Ben Jones-Bishop was once a grand final winner with the Leeds Rhinos. All good outside backs, but they're really lacking in the half. Ash Golding could be a viable option, but then they'd be overcompensating for that by the fact that they played him at dummy half up in the last test, and then they're back to square one on just same problem, different position. So I think they are backed into a corner. I think if they look to investment in their development programs, probably back in Jamaica, because I think most of the World Cup squad's actually in the UK still at this point. And but I think we should persist with Jamaica and development of professional rugby league in the Americas. I will say that.
Oh, put it this way, Jamaica obviously are going to be World Cup, so there is what we would say internationals. It's probably a good thing that they're playing, that they can find out who plays where and these combinations work, these combinations don't work in the like. So it's kind of a good thing that they're doing this and that the World Cup is delayed for their favour. It's not for them, but it works in their favour, you could say.
Exactly. Meantime, this Scotland side, because I think I would probably, honestly, there hasn't been many instances where Scotland have had televised test matches. And I've only seen Scotland play in the Four Nations tournament and the 2017 Rugby League World Cup, because to be quite frank, they're just terrible. I mean, fair play, they were playing Australia, New Zealand, and Tonga all within in the space of 2 years across 2 different tournaments. But still, some of the results, you just had to sit there and just be dumbfounded by, like, Four Nations 2016 at Hull College Craven Park against Australia. They get towed up 54-16. But in the World Cup, they get towed up not once, but twice. Right? Including having 76, I think, from memory, put on them. I think it was not, I'm trying to say not Christchurch, but I think it's actually, but they were towed up by the Kiwis. Is where they only managed 1 try and then had probably 12 running against them. And then all they had after that was a draw in their final pool match against Samoa, who also had a pretty bad. No, actually, I'm going to correct myself because I just brought up the fixtures list for the World. Oh, no, wait, no, hang on, no. Oh, scratch that. 50-4 loss to Tonga, then followed up to a 74-6 loss against the Kiwis, and then that 14-all draw. So a very bad World Cup in 2017 for the Scots.
No,
so
wasn't there.
This is going to be interesting to see where are Scotland at now?
Well,
what's changed between their final test match they played, World Cup match, where it was a draw? What's changed for them?
Well, obviously, they haven't got NRL players in their side. But the squad is looking quite good. I reckon they've got experienced players from Super League like Addy, Briley, Bell, Hood, and the like. So
I think the good news for Scotland is, I mean, it's the same story as the England Knights. You got the more experienced, you got a whole lot more players in that squad there that have played at the top flight level and know what to expect. I mean, key players, Alex Walker to start at fullback, you would think, Liam Hood at dummy half for the Leeds Centurions. And I think you got, but forwards in the fellow teammates from the Leeds Centurions. Ryan Briley's probably going to get a start in the halves. Then you got James Bell and Ben Hellawell, both in the forward pack. Like somewhere, an experienced head like Dale Ferguson, also from Featherstone. And then you get the excitement machine that is Lachlan Walmsley. I mean, to be quite fair, I've heard the raps, but I haven't watched him play that much because, like I said, it's an effort to try and cover two major competitions without having to look at second divisions. But if you want to see us cover the Betfred Championship next year, leave your thoughts down in the comment section down below, and we'll do it on a 1 to 7 scale, which means whichever game they fall order in the championship next year, vote 1 or 7 for the game you want to see covered, and we'll do it for that week.
Yes.
I think that's only fair. If you want to see the championship covered, I mean, we'll probably end up with the same sides over and over again, depending how it goes. But it spices it up, and we actually get to keep more informed with the championship matters.
Yeah. I know it's gone slightly off topic, but that Lachlan Walmsley, be familiar for that name in Australia, especially around the Newcastle area, because he is from Newcastle in Australia. So
how about that?
Compared for Connor and I, he's a local person.
Relatively speaking.
Relatively speaking, but yes, that is local for us. But watch that name rise. And with the last name, Walmsley, I'm not quite sure if he's
no relation.
Well, there you go.
I'm pretty sure there is no relation anyway.
But be familiar with that Walmsley name. We already know with one Walmsley, see what this Walmsley can do.
It'll be interesting. I think whether he is successful as his namesake, I think that'll have to be for him to decide.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, you got, I believe, I was about to say Jermaine Coleman as the head coach of Jamaica, but it's not. It's Romeo Monteith going up against the new Scotland coach Nathan Graham, or he's probably been there a while, but because the last I remember was Steve McCormack as the World Cup head coach, this is where we are. So, final say, Jamaica to bounce back from a lashing against the England Knights, or does Scotland get a confidence booster ahead of the World Cup?
I'm going to go with the last one, Scotland, to get a confidence booster. I think they've got the strongest side over Jamaica. Jamaica has still got a lot to learn, and like I said, these tests or internationals will really help build this squad heading to the World Cup next year. But final say, Scotland 13 plus.
It's going to take a lot from the Jamaican backs to try and get good field position to help these rookie halves in the place without Jordan Turner under there with his versatility. But you're right. I look at the Scottish squad and I look at the key players and the key positions that you do need. And I think Scotland are going to get over the top up here. I think they'll manage the game better than the Jamaicans will, and I think then they'll just run up another total. You're right. I think this will be a Scotland 13 plus win.
But we never know. We
Yes,
never know what's going to happen.
We never know indeed. Now, switching it is from Scotland going down south, and I mean, we're talking real south because it is the big one in this little window of international football. It's England traveling to the south of France to face the old enemy from the perspective of an Englishman. And we do have the squads finalized. Well, maybe not the French, but the English side is finalized. Niall Evalds will start at fullback with Tom Davies and Tommy Makinson taking up the flanks. Reece Lynn and Zach Hardacre are in the centres with Johnny Lomax and Jordan Abdul in the halves. Locking down the scrum, it is Morgan Knowles with the stand-in captain John Bateman in the second row with Liam Farrell. Up front, it's Alex Walmsley, Paul McShane and Mike Cooper. And coming off from the bench, it's Ben Curry, Cruz Leeming, Mikolaj Levski and Joe Philbin in head coach Sean Wayne's second outing as England coach.
Okay, so France aren't finalised, like their positions of 1 to 17. But I have got a 20-minute spot, and I am going to say it again now. I apologise for the names. I wanted them to go last names if I cannot get their first names.
Well, that's why I'm here. That's why
Yes.
I'm here, because I'm your translator to make sure you don't butcher it the next time you have to say it.
Yes. So you got Elias Virgil. Ilias, sorry. Straight off the block. Antonio Gigo. Matthew.
Giselle,
Gisai, yeah. Mark Kirill.
Corella.
Corella. Come on. I watched the £1 million game. Some of these players were in that game. Anthony Marion. Romain
Navarrete.
Eloy Pelisa. Maxim Huge.
Pue.
Sorry. Justin Sangare. Matthew Kozar. Jordan Desarea. Michael Gorman.
Mikhail Goodemont.
Mikhail, sorry.
Can't you tell the difference between an H and a K? Did you even learn English? Well, I suppose not, because you're trying to read off French enunciation.
Yes. Benjamin Julien.
There we go. There we go. We are learning.
I won't put you. Mathieu Leguer. Corentin Lecam.
Lecam, you got it right.
Okay, yeah. Arthur Morg. Cesar Rouge. Paul
Seguia.
Fulhad Yaha, and Morgan Escare.
There we go. We're getting there. We will get there.
Hey,
we'll see how you do next week when you try and read off the 17 men in the side.
Yeah,
or Laurent Fresh and you.
Some need to talk about the Toulouse side and Catalans and the Super League and that side. Here's some of them. So, yeah, I do apologise if it things.
I find that the choice with John Bateman being handed the captaincy, because apparently it was a 2-horse race between himself and Johnny Lomax when it was understood that Sam Tompkins would not be playing in this test match. So interesting thing going with Bateman, because I would have thought Paul McShane straight away would have had his hand up for that captaincy.
I mean, you can have multiple co-captains, but that doesn't work. But you could have, like you said, Lomax, McShane, and Bateman. But Sean Wayne decided to go with John Bateman, but he is quite capable as being captain as well. So
he's a game winner. He's a winner. That's what John Bateman is. I mean, he won 2 grand finals or so under Sean Wayne's tutelage. Oh no, wait, that was Ryan Sutton. I think he actually won 3, maybe, if he still wasn't at Bradford in 2013. It shows how well we are researched on this front.
Yes.
But still, I mean, we're still learning to run this thing properly, even though we are 9 months in at this point. So there's still going to be teething problems. And then we just hit the ground running next year, and we're much more prepared than what we are now.
So, no, we will be.
But yeah, I think interesting choice, especially when you would have had Paul McShane, and Liam Farrell would have actually been a leader amongst men, especially given the way the Wigan Warriors played this year, when Bateman was having trouble with injury and form as well as suspension.
Sure.
Interesting, Jordan Abdul actually gets the call up for an England berth, but I suppose as with many scrum halves not probably being past fit. I mean, you've got to remember, Jordan Abdul is in a pool for scrum half positions with Gareth Widdop, George Williams, Luke Gale, when fully fit, because when has Luke Gale been fully fit this year? And actually, he put together several games, because really he hasn't.
No.
And not this year, or anyway. Widdop, Williams, Gale. Well, I really think that's about it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, Jackson Hastings isn't even considered, because Sean Wayne is going with the policy correctly of picking strictly Englishmen for the England side, and it would be the same story with Great Britain when we touch on it.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, Oh, one point of contention, I think, should be mentioned, and it's a very noticeable omission, which have seen many black and white fans screaming blue murder. The omission of Jake Connor.
Yes, very much so.
Omitted. Second time, I believe, that he did not get picked for England. Because remember, he played for the Combined Nations All-Stars, claiming Trinidad and Tobago heritage against England. So is there a conspiracy with Sean Wayne not picking Jake Connor either at fullback or at centre in favour of Riesling or Hardacre?
I don't know, but he could be thinking in the long run. He might bring Jake Connor for the next match, maybe.
Well, if he's not there at the World, well, I think would be the case, because I don't think he'll be playing for the Combined Nations All-Stars again.
Maybe.
It's a curious case, though, I feel. Extremely curious.
Yeah. Overall, the squad is...
I mean, given the way Connor's played this year, he was an outstanding presence for Hull FC at the back. I mean, he basically, even when Jamie Shaw was then declared fit, he still was kept out of the side.
Yeah, it certainly was, which is a good thing to have, a bit of a good selection pattern to have.
Yeah, but I think having Alex Walmsley there is going to be key, because they didn't have him against the Combined Nations All-Stars, and you saw how that just packed and out only just. Then shifting Morgan Knowles to loose foot. Well, I think a very good dynamic shift there. The French side, meanwhile, I think there are some very exciting names in this 20-man squad that I think will get first-time caps. Mathieu Gisaume, Laguerre, Archie Morgue, or against Cesar Rouge, I think are all in line for a test call-up.
Yes.
I think if I was Laurent Fressigny, I would actually be playing Mark Carella at fullback.
Yeah, I would.
And secondly, because of also the goal kicking, I would put Tony Gigot in the centres myself. And even though they don't have some of their bigger names like Theo Farge playing, this French side isn't too badly structured.
No, like you said, you've got like the young ones of more Leger and Whites, and they've also got experience in there. So like Julien and Scarry and Yaha. So there's plenty there, and they put up a massive.
It's like I said, it's one thing to have all this nice French talent, young talent coming through. It's another thing to actually stand up and perform. Well, of course, I think for Archie Morgue, this playing in the grand final would have actually done him wonders, even though he only played like the last 15 minutes or so. But I think handling pressure, I think you could almost say thrive in this environment.
He certainly could. And we know how well both Catalans and Toulouse went this season. If you put them to mix them up, both put mixtures from Catalan and Toulouse into a squad, then you've got a very strong squad indeed, I believe.
Well, both sides aren't without key players, and of course, the retirement of James Roby from international football doesn't help England's cause either, but they already had a breadth of dummy halves to call upon. If this battle is going to be won and lost, I think it will come down to the forward packs. I mean, Justin Sangaré has been a very good performer for Toulouse, I think, especially in the semi-final against the Batley Bulldogs, and then backed it up in the £1 million game. There'll be pressure to try and match it with Alex Walmsley, but I think he's not alone. When he's got Gudemont and Paul Seguea amongst those trying to offer up support, and well, as an experienced head that was pretty much almost fallen off the Super League radar, that is Romain Navarrete, and then of course the exciting backs like Morgue, Rouge, Laguerre, and Gisaume, and with an experienced head like Fouad Yaha and Carella.
You've got plenty of strike power out wide as well. So
They've got strike power, but there's still relative inexperience and youth going up against some very experienced heads in the England side.
Yeah, that's true. With Corrella's goal kicking that he put on in the £1 game, and even through the whole playoffs in the championship, he was just unbelievable.
It's interesting because if it comes down to goals, Jordan Abdul's not exactly the best goal kicker in Super League. And Hull KR had the worst goal kicking percentage even with Jordan Abdul, because he was out for some of the year. So I think it would be very interesting to see how this pans out. If it's a forward battle, England crushed them. If it's a lot tighter, trying to take advantage of tired St. Helens players, which, make up 1/3 of the squad practically.
Well, kind of week off. So.
Then France have a chance. I think they're in with a chance, but I think I got to go with how I see it. And I think if it's a forward battle and the more cohesion in that England side, I got to go England, but to win it narrowly, 1-12.
I'm going to go the opposite. The French, like I said, both in Super League and Championship across Catalans and Toulouse, have had outstanding seasons. Mixed through the best players and some juniors in there. Get the combinations right, and the French will be a powerhouse.
Again.
I reckon this game is going to be part of that rise that the French are going to be, or have already started. I'm going to say France to win 1-12.
France win 1-12.
Yep.
All right. Well, the RFL chief definitely has something in common here with Ralph Rimmer making comment. And after the very good rise of Catalan and Toulouse in 2021, he's even suggested that there will be a regular clash on the matter of regular clashes between England and France. And quoting from his comments to loverugbyleague.com, saying that having two teams from France in Super League demonstrates the quality that is available, and we're going to play in an environment which we know will be pretty partisan. It's an important building block for our men and women, and I think we'll get into some fairly regulation competition with the French. So he's obviously endorsing not just this test match going forward, but sort of like mid-season test matches to be played in a restructured Super League Cup, and that considering that they're going back to 27 rounds and potentially an opportunity for mid-year internationals.
Yeah. But that's what he thinks. He could be right, he could be wrong. Everyone is entitled to their opinion.
Oh, absolutely true, they are. But I think the RFL would be a fool if they did not try to engage with France or try and regain some of that French rugby league rivalry that was built up. So I've just recently started rereading. I only go as far as the first 8 chapters in Mike Rowlands' first book, The Forbidden Game, The Untold Story of French Rugby League. And we're just getting up to the part where where one of the founding fathers, Jean Gallier, leads around the first French domestic comp to be held in France. It's the establishment of rugby league there in the earlier part of the 30s. And they just talked about how it's brilliant for international or competition because they're ostracized from rugby union as it is, and they're left playing countries like Romania, Germany, and Italy, I believe they mentioned. So if they can recapture the same spirit they had when they first started this initiative all the way back in the 30s, it could go a long way to really some all-time classics ahead.
Yeah, look, I hope it does happen and bring back the, like you said, what you could say, rivalry.
Yeah,
it'll be good.
They've only played each other a couple of times in the last 5 years. They played once in the World Cup back in 2017. England cruised to victory. Then they played I believe, a one-off test match in 2018, and it was another crushing blow to the French. But I think this time it will be different this time round for both sides. And of course, as we have talked with Troy Grant, chairman of the IRL in the past, this will do wonders for the French if they can get their 2025 Rugby League World Cup bid over the line.
Yes, I certainly hope they do, because it'll be massive.
I don't see anyone else really challenging for it.
No.
In the same article, Ralph Rimmer also mentions that Great Britain fixtures are penciled in to the next international calendar arranged by the IRL and all participants. And so could there be, within the next 3 years, another Great Britain tour, essentially?
Maybe. I hope it does, though.
Well, I mean, he says they are penciled in, but I think the question is, do they host this tour? Or, well, no, yeah. Are they hosting the tour? Yeah, we'll get back to that original point. Are they hosting the tour for the Kangaroos, or are they coming back out on tour to Australia and New Zealand?
Well, I reckon they should come out.
Again?
Well, wait, when was the last time they came out?
2019.
Okay, then Australia's tend to go across. I reckon. Alternate per year. But you never know.
You never know. I mean, this calendar is still about 6 months away from being finalized, which takes us to April 2022. So by that point, we'll be deep into NRL talk and Super League talk as well. Or we even get back to talking about the international game. Not
being biased because it's been like a local-ish stadium, but I think I should have more international games in Newcastle. I know it can only hold 35,000 people, but it's capable of holding big matches. I know it's not as big as CommBank Stadium and Stadium Australian Isles. But you also will have the new Sydney Football Stadium too. So there's plenty
apparently, according to the Roosters website, as written the last week, they say it would be ready at the conclusion of the 2022 season. So more than likely, the Roosters won't even get a home game there next year. They'll still be out at the cricket ground and then move into it by 2023.
So delayed it.
Unless they finish in the finals, then there might still be a chance.
Maybe. Wonder why delayed it, but anyway, because like you do, you're hoping they Roosters Rabbits game at the new Sydney Football Stadium. But anyway, we're going off track. But yeah, I don't know.
But I think it'd be awesome at CommBank to have an Ashes Test match.
Oh, it certainly would be.
Imagine all those British supporters packed in to the stands, and the atmosphere they bring. Just imagine that. That'd be amazing to behold.
You just need to see the atmosphere that Parramatta games bring in there. It's unbelievable.
And finally, when talking about world football, the World Club Challenge, they're talking it might not go ahead again next year.
Oh, that sucks big time.
Once again from Love Rugby League, saying that it's unlikely to happen as the pandemic continues to provide challenges for global sport. And they're still weighing up logistics for the Panthers to come and play St. Helens in early 2022. Well, first of all, considering we know that the Betfred Super League will start on the 10th of February, their time, of course, it will start on the 11th for us. So how it worked for St. Helens with 27 rounds to play? Do they play round one and then, or round one, round two, like in 2018, and they jump into the World Club Challenge, go round three? Or do they play it before the start of the season as a warm-up?
I'll play as the start of the season as a warm-up.
I mean, you've got to drag Penrith out there. I don't think there are any quarantine requirements for travelers going into the UK, well, I mean, I don't think they've really had any border measures. It's up until about May, and even still then, there were flights landing in London. But never mind that.
It's too confusing to keep up.
But this would be the second World Club Challenge fixture in 2 years that didn't go ahead. I mean, obviously, no one wanted to buy the UK in Christmas 2020 going into 2021, even though there would have been a way around to try and work Saints up against the Melbourne Storm. Of course, that never happened, as we talked about at the start of the year. It suggested pushing it back, but then, of course, the NRL had its own problems to deal with at home and so forth. Well, we really can't afford to stage the World Club Challenge this year, so we'll push it back, and now they might be just can it again.
Well, what they should do, also St. Helens will have to play back-to-back games because they won the last 3. But maybe they should have the 2021 played, and then a week later have the 2021 one played. So you have Penrith and Melbourne both travelling to England. Melbourne plays St. Helens first up because of the 2020 World Club one, and then have Panthers play St. Helens a week later. Then you've got 2 of them a week apart.
Well, you could do it that way, but then you'll hear the NRL media get upset because we get to the end of the 2022 season, the Panthers and the Storm are both busted, they're not in the top 4, or they're struggling, and there's like literally the other members of the top 6 from this year, and the Raiders all jumped ahead of them. And it's just like, it's that bloody World Club Challenge that did it. It ruined the NRL for 2022 because the great Melbourne Storm and the champions were not in the finals or competitive because they were dragged off to England in February. And then that's had a knock-on effect since there, even though we totally didn't foresee the fact that Penrith are suffering from grand final hangover and the Melbourne Storm are running on empty for some reason or other. But that's a hypothetical. So we don't know. But I would sort of null and void the 2021 World Club Challenge, unless you wanted to, judge their seasons on points percentage or some shit like that. But I don't think that it's really fair because or something like that. I wouldn't. But 2022, play it.
Yes.
Both countries are in a better position than what they were at the start of this year. Both Australia and the UK.
Yeah.
This one should go ahead. Don't push it back again.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just giving the NRL the excuse to say, it's just a trial match. We can't afford can it. We shouldn't can it. No way.
It's the 2 best clubs on their respective competitions.
Markers. They are markers to see where we are. And the fact that we are aligned with the same rule set, it'll be interesting to see how we go forward, because if you've read books from the perspective of British players, and this is going to be perfect segue. Rob Burrow mentioned the times he's gone up against the Australian sides. And it's sort of like, because they play free-flowing football, they don't bullshit around with the wrestle and all of that. So now that the wrestle's gone, that they're both playing flat and fast football, well, in the 6 again era of rugby league.
Which NRL started.
Yes, that is true. But he got in line with the international standard for refereeing because,
yes, true.
Reasons. And well, cost cutting, but I think it was common sense to go back to one referee anyway and give him more power.
Yes.
But no, I think it is important because I think you look at the history of the World Club Challenge, especially from the early 2000s, like you had Bradford, the Saints, and the Leeds Rhinos. And they were going toe-to-toe with some of the best sides on our side of the world in the early 2000s. Think of it, the 2004 Bulldogs. They were a pretty good side. Melbourne Storm when they were cheating. But Des Hasler's Manly just at the beginning of the 2010s. That was a pretty fearsome side that stood toe-to-toe with Melbourne.
Yeah, that's very true.
So it's not that they had their moments where the Super League clubs in the early 2000s really stood toe-to-toe with the big powerhouse clubs. But I think since the 2010s, I think, what do we have? We had, well, I mean, Leeds beat Manly. Then it went, Melbourne beat Leeds. The Roosters beat Wigan. South smashed St. Helens 39-0.
Which is unheard of.
Well, it happened. The Cowboys rolled over the Leeds Rhinos, but I think they was having trouble of their own. I mean, this was just after 2015 when they lost Peacock, Sinfield, and Kylie Luai all in 1 year, and they're struggling to replace all of them. Again, Rob Burrow details this in his autobiography, Too Many Reasons to Live. Good read, would recommend. And this is not a self-promotion. This is not a promotion in any sense. This is just a recommendation.
Yeah.
Then the sort, what I think they would say, the stick out in the recent era, Wigan dominating Cronulla. But then since then, Storm beat Leeds, the Roosters beat Wigan, and the Roosters beat St. Helens.
Yeah.
We should continue with this because I think there will come a time, and it could well be right now, from the 2020s onwards, there is an opportunity for the English sides to actually try and establish some equalizing performances against us.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But we need buy-in from the NRL to let that happen, in my view.
No, I 100% agree. I cannot argue your points you've made right there.
We can't isolate ourselves from the rest of the world of rugby league because we got a big role to play in it.
Oh,
now,
hell yeah, we do.
Staying on Rob Burrow, because, I mean, this bloke, just the inspiration or the support he's got and he's getting, it just went to a whole nother level just last week alone. At the Jacksonville Cougars and Miami Dolphins game from the NFL played in London at Tottenham Hotspurs, the NFL sides decided, and I think this is actually going to help his cause a little bit more because now he's just taken the platform global. But before kickoff in this game, they played a small segment, a tribute to Rob Burrow. So this is really a shout out to the NFL and to the Jacksonville Cougars in particular as the hosts, to actually playing this tribute and honoring Rob Burrow as their special guest. Yes. And now taking his fight against motor neurone disease. Well, it really to the world. I mean, we know rugby league is the greatest game of all. Suck it, America. But you can't deny that the NFL is one of the world's largest recognized sporting brands. And they've just taken Rob Burrow and his fight against motor neurone disease. They've now just taken it to a global audience from their time in London.
Yeah. No.
Nice touch, but still, rugby league's the best sport in the world. Suck it, America. Get good at it, and you will get good at it. Just don't dominate us when it comes time.
No, it was a very, very nice tribute that the NFL did too.
I'm strictly joking, but still.
Yeah. No, it's very nice.
NFL's not up the global sport. Well, I mean, neither is us, but still.
No.
Decided to have a sledge just for the sake of sledging.
Yes, because we can do that.
Yeah, I'm on this.
Yeah,
I could go political I wanted. I mean, there was that little bit I mentioned, but we don't discuss politics, but we can still joke about it.
Yes,
like I did in the intro, just at the start of it. And finally, the last little bit to talk about, the Gold Coast Titans decided to release a strategic roadmap into 2030.
Yes.
Where part of this roadmap is stated as, we will bring premierships to the Gold Coast.
It's a very, very big statement.
Ballsy. It is ballsy. What they are calling for is part of their strategic roadmap that they will, in the next 8 years or so, 8 and a bit, they will win 2 NRL premierships and 2 NRLW premierships.
Yeah, very big call indeed.
I've heard the story before of teams trying to promise that they will win not 1, but 2 premierships in specified period of time. The Dogs mentioned this infamously in their strategic plan as far as 2019, that they would finish top four every year and that they would win 2 premierships by 2019. And look how that went for us. Yeah, shut up. You haven't won a premiership in 10 years.
Hey,
11, sorry.
yeah, but at least the Dogs didn't sign until 2021. Then they would have had a wooden spoon.
But it's curious, the Titans, because I think ever since the 80s, the Gold Coast has practically been considered the graveyard of rugby league. Whether it's the Gold Coast Seagulls, the Gold Coast Tweed Giants, as they were first originally known as, then the Gold Coast Seagulls, and then the Gold Coast Chargers when they collapsed at the end of the first NRL season in 1998, only to be revived no more than 8 years later as the Gold Coast Titans to create the fifth, because I think there was also a time then there was known as the Gladiators, I heard.
Yeah.
That this is the 5th attempt of having a club on the Gold Coast. And so far, they've actually been the most successful out of all 5 entities.
It's true.
I mean, they've had what? 2 wooden spoons, and they've had 4 finals appearances. That's saying a lot. And now they are going to promise that they will not only get to the top 4 of the NRL, which at the moment Queensland clubs have got a fear of ever since the Broncos and the Cowboys were at their peak, but they are going to go past the Storm, Manly, Penrith, the Roosters, Rabbits, and the Eels, trying to get past all of them to try and leapfrog their way into the top 4 at best.
Yeah.
After letting their skipper, their stable halfback, and really their first choice goal kicker go to the Canberra Raiders.
Yeah, but there is a name that we will have to watch out for in Toby Sexton.
Yeah, we'll see. But he's thrown into the deep end. No question about that.
I'd say that's why they played him a couple of games last season.
I've honestly, out of all this plan, I think it would be realistic for the NRLW side to actually win 1 premiership or try to win 1 premiership, because
it's the first time that they are fielding an NRLW side.
I mean, think of it this way: there will be a point where the Broncos will just collapse. The NRL side collapsed years ago, but the Broncos will fall. I would think the only opposition they have to face, most likely, Parramatta Eels might offer up some interesting challenges as well. The Roosters have been too inconsistent, as have now the Jamie Soward coached St. George Illawarra Dragons.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It could be possible to achieve this, but really, the Titans need a lot to go their way.
They do, but I reckon they are capable of doing it.
I think back-to-back finals would be a good place to start before you can say, we will bring premierships home to the coast.
Oh, yeah, look, they've got a young squad coming through, which is packed of talent. They've got young players and more experienced players. And they've got Brimson, they've got Sexton, they've got Fastenal and Whaley, they've got Fafita. That's just 4 I can rattle off the top of my head. They've got a lot of young blokes coming through, and they are mighty good.
Well, considering we can't agree on that, we'll throw it to you, the audience at home. Are the Titans delusional, or are they actually, you think they can achieve this? Leave your thoughts down below, because guess what? It's now full time from us. If you like this edition of the Sideline Chat podcast, make sure you leave a like, subscribe, and click that notifications bell so you never miss a week of rugby league action. Hope you enjoy the weekend of football if you can and watch it, or even interested. I know cricket's coming up for us, and we still haven't got a plan for the off season, but there's something cooking in the works. Maybe. maybe never. But they know that there is. It's just a couple of technical things to work out, and then we'll put it to you to see what you, the audience, think about it. Along with Mark Hendry, I am Connor Marcellus, and you have been listening to the Sideline Chat podcast. We'll see you next week.
Enjoy the footy and catch us all next week.